Hi, and welcome back to
A little bit of this.
and a little bit of that. I am your co host, Sean Everett.
I'm Jess. How are you doing? We have a special guest today. Her name is Alli. Can you say hi to everybody?
Yes, hi.
So we're so excited to have you today. This is probably our first podcast episode that's going to be a little deeper in a conversation that I kind of want to give a little warning out there. There could be trigger warnings for this. This is talking about emotional, physical, mental abuse. And as always, if you are in a current situation like this, please reach out to any of your local authorities or any churches or anything in the area that you may be able to help you get out. Friends, family. You're not alone in this. There is safe places to go to. So there's your trigger warning. Now, Sean, my co host, is going to step aside on this one. He has never been through what Allie's going to talk about, her domestic abuse survival story. So he'll be back on, towards the end to kind of wrap it up. And if there's any other questions or anything he wants to say, he can. If not, that's fine too.
I would like to clarify I've only been through abuse mentally and emotionally.
Yes. All right. So thank you so much, Alli, for being here today. You and I have been friends for a long time, and we
Yes.
both know that this is a very important topic to both of us, that we are both survivors. Um, and I'm just honored that you're willing to tell your story again because, every time you talk about it, it can bring up emotions. I know you and I both have been on a very, very intense healing journey and been through a lot of, just however it's helped us, we've done it to kind of
Mhm.
heal. And, talking about our story has helped a lot of people. And I want us to talk about what we have in the works towards the end of the podcast. But for now, I would like, turn it over to you. I want you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story. And again, only tell what you feel comfortable talking about. You can leave things out or you can dive fully in, whatever your comfort zone is.
Okay, sure. So, okay, my story began when I was 5, and up till that point, I had a pretty good childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Florida, and my dad was in the Air Force, and then something happened, and he was kind of scooted this way to Maine, where I live now. Uh, my grandparents were here and they were tired of driving to Florida. So you come see us kids and him and my mom. And so he said, well, I guess that means I'm leaving the military. And that's the story we grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
And so at 5, my dad had asked me if I wanted to go with him because he now after the military went and drove a truck and he would go on construction for weeks at a time. He'd be gone. And so I was all about adventure. And when he said, go camping and stuff like that, yeah, 5-year-old,
Yes,
let's go. Right? Who doesn't, right? So
absolutely.
my mom said, no, I don't want her going. And I kind of insisted, like, Mom, please, please let me go. And so she did. And then that night, I started getting homesick for Mom.
Yeah.
And then I had a stomach ache. I thought it was something because I had ate too much, but it was basically the just homesickness that I've never felt before.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so my dad was in the other section of the camper, and I just said, Dad, I have a stomach ache. I don't feel good. I want to go home. And he said, well, no. He said, why don't you just climb in bed with me? Well, as a 5-year-old, you're thinking, well, Dad's just going to comfort me like Mom does.
Yeah.
And I get to bed with him, and he asked me to do something that I knew at 5 years old is not right to do.
Mm.
And that's when my child sexual abuse started. And up till 13, when they got divorced, and my mom never knew until the divorce. And then well, my middle sister, I tried to tell her,
Yeah.
but she's like, young ladies don't talk like that. She said, now, I'll wash your mouth out with soap. You don't say that again.
Mm.
And so then, but when all three of us came to her at the time of the divorce, she had no doubt that, not, three of my daughters were saying the same thing, and she could not believe that. So here my mom was, and she was about 40. They had been married 40 years, and he had left her for another woman, and now she's finding out that he has sexually abused all her daughters.
Oh,
And not only that, but my brother at the same time was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And so she was trying to figure that out, and she had never worked in her life. She had been a stay-at-home mom. Now she has to get a job.
Yeah.
And so she unfortunately had a mental breakdown. And I think anybody would under the circumstances.
Most certainly. Yeah.
It was a little bit too much for anyone to bear.
Yeah.
And so she ended up going to a popular place here. It's a mental facility, and a very, very dark facility. And so she had to go to court to get us kids. And so she went to court, and my older sister tried to tell the court that not to award us to our dad because he was an abuser, and the court wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
And she was very dramatic about it, and she was making a scene, so they asked her to leave. And of course, my brother and I were under the age at that time of 13, so we didn't have a say. And so they awarded my dad to have us kids because my mom, once they found out she had the mental breakdown, they just felt she wasn't in a mental state to have us, and she lost us. And that was the last thing she had, her last thread of anything.
Oh, my goodness.
The last bit of hope.
Oh.
Yeah, and so she tried to commit suicide on the day that I graduated. I didn't know about it until my dad told me after my graduation, and I was mad. I said, "That's my mom. I should have known." I said, "I didn't want to ruin the situation for you." And he was trying to protect me, but a lie is a lie.
Right.
And so lesson learned is a big lesson that I learned in my life, and he learned it that day too, is that no matter what, always tell. If someone says it's a secret, it's between you and I. Tell somebody.
Yeah.
Tell somebody. If you don't want to hurt somebody and try and protect them, it's always going to come out anyway.
Yeah.
So just tell them. It may be that they're adopted. Okay. There's a certain time for everything. There's a certain place. Do research on it, and how can I tell this person, right? But lies are lies.
Oh yeah.
Right. So lies hurt, and they hurt, both parties, and because one has to bear all that, and then the other one is just like, what? I should have known this.
Yeah.
So after that, I lived a lot of the abuse prior to, but once he remarried my stepmom, once he married her, then she had told him that she wasn't going to report it, which I hold her responsible to this day, because she should have reported it.
Most certainly.
Yeah, but instead of reporting it, what she did was she held it over his head if he were ever to leave her. Then she would report it.
Oh.
So it was basically to blackmail him.
Oh.
And saying, and because she had daughters too, so she said to him that if he ever touched any of her daughters or us again, then she would go to a place that as long as he stayed with her, she'd keep the secret, right?
Like, I don't understand why she would want to stay with him. knowing what he
Right.
had done. Like, there's something wrong there for her mental health too, if she's willing to
Right.
be with someone who would do that.
Right. And there was a motive. It was money. My dad wasn't rich by any means, but
Yeah.
back then, he was military.
Yep.
That's a residual income coming in every month.
Oh yeah.
And her last two husbands were military. And so I see a pattern here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so so I went there to live, and my stepmother treated us kids as leftovers,
Oh.
leftover children. And so, her kids could like get away with anything, and we
Yeah.
had to do all the work. And although my brother was very, very highly favored over me, and I didn't mind that at all. It just happened that I was the only one that kind of was picked on,
Yeah.
and so because he was a later in life child, and my mother had always wanted a son, and he was the last one, and so he'd already been like that preeminent kind of person, that child, that personality.
Right.
And so we just knew it. We knew this is my baby brother. We take care of him.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of in the middle. So I remember one night especially, it was Christmas, and supposed to be a nice, happy occasion, which to this day I still love Christmas.
Oh yeah.
I do not spoil my image of Christmas, but I had gotten my stepmom and my dad had given me a bra. Now, being 13, anyone can just know that that's kind of embarrassing.
Oh yeah.
That in front of everybody, right?
Yes.
So again, right time, right place, right?
Yeah.
And not only did they give that to me in front of everybody, but they forced me into modeling it for everybody.
What?
Yes.
Okay, that's not okay.
Right, that's not okay. And so you can just envision the embarrassment that I felt. And so anyway, that was one of the things that happened. And so this 13-year-old now is thinking the best thing that she can do is the first chance she gets, she can just like run away, go somewhere else. It's going to be a better place, right?
Yeah.
So when I was 17, my stepsister came to visit. She lived in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me, she said, "Do you want to go back with me? And you can watch my kids for me while I work." I'm like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
right? All the bells are going off.
Yeah.
And so I went to Myrtle Beach, and I wish I could say it worked out, but it didn't work out for the babysitting situation. Just her and I kind of clashed.
Yeah.
So I ended up being homeless for about 4 days, and I wandered around because I wasn't about to go back home. There's nothing to go back home for, right? Plus, I was very prideful. I didn't want to admit defeat, so I got to stick it out, right? So 4 days I'm homeless, and then I'm sitting on a park bench, and this lady named Mary, of all names, comes up to me and says, "Do you know that God loves you?"
Oh.
And at that time, I really didn't.
No.
I had been in church all my life. My mom had to make sure we were there every time the doors were open.
Yeah.
I had never heard that God loved me. Yeah. I had heard that, the hell and brimfire preaching, and I had heard that you needed to come up and confess your sins every Sunday.
Right.
But I had heard that God loved me.
Loved you, yeah.
And so she said that, and then I said, "No, I don't." And she said, "Why don't you come home with me? I'll get you some soup, and I know a pastor we can call, and we'll ask him, if he can help." So I went back with her, and she called him right there and said, "I have this lady, and she doesn't have anywhere to go. It's okay if she stays with you."
Uh-huh.
And he says, "Yes." So I went over there, and that very night they had the movie, the Jesus movie.
Mm-hmm.
And So I watched that movie, and if you've ever seen it, it's a very emotional movie.
Oh, very.
And
Very hard to watch
yeah,
some parts.
it is very hard.
Yeah.
And he did that for me, and I was like, I want to get baptized. I want to get baptized.
Yeah.
And so my pastor, he's like, Grace, like, so he goes, when do you want to do it? And I said, tonight. He goes, tonight? It was 9 o'clock at night. And he's like, okay, I guess we're going to the beach. So at 9 o'clock at night, we go to the beach. And if you know anything about Myrtle Beach, there's sharks in the water.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm thinking sharks, right? And so we go into the water. And of course, I'm very tall. I'm 6'1".
Mm-hmm.
So you can't see it here. But so we're going into the water, and the water in Myrtle Beach is very shallow, so you have to go quite a ways.
Yes.
It's dark.
And you're thinking, sharks.
Yes. And so he says, okay, there's all the, you believe in the Son, the Holy Ghost, all that. So he dunks me under. I come back up, and he says, we're going to have to do that again. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, you didn't go all the way under. I'm like, oh my
You're like,
God.
it's because I'm tall.
He dunks me back under, and then I come back up, and I come back up this time really quick.
Yeah.
And I like take off. Like he can't even catch me, even if I didn't go under this time. I'm like, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And I ran back to the shore, and everybody's clapping, when I get back there. And my favorite memory of all that was that when I got back that night, we had hot chocolate.
Yes.
And to this day, I love hot chocolate.
Yes, you do. I know that.
Yes.
Well, see, that's a beautiful. I don't know that I've that you've ever shared that with me. I don't think you have. That's beautiful. Like, even though you went through something so hard and so terrible, you got baptized at the end of all of that. Like, with sharks and all. I mean, you did it, and you had to do it twice. And so that's actually a beautiful story. I'm so glad you shared that. Because I know that there's going to be listeners who are going through something right now and don't see any kind of light, in the darkness. And just hang tight, even if that light includes sharks. there's still something to hang on for. If you have, what do they say? If you have oxygen in your lungs, then you're here for a purpose, and it's not your time. Like, there's still something that you're supposed to be doing here.
Exactly. And we had a wonderful song at church this morning.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you just said. It said, actually, if I'm not dead, then that means you're not done.
That's right. Ooh, I got chills.
Yeah, because it's so true. Every day that we wake up and we have another breath, it's that purpose that he wants to fulfill. It's not.
Yes. And we don't always know what it is. And it's learning to be patient in the dark, or learning to be patient when things are going great. What is your purpose? You'll eventually find out. You'll eventually know. And, it does get hard to be patient. And, when you've been through so many traumatic things in your life and you question, where is God through all that? Why did this happen to me? And then some people like me, when Jack passed, I got really mad at God. I was like, how dare you take this person from me after I waited my whole life to meet him?
Right.
But Jack fulfilled his purpose very young. Like, I think that he gave everything he had, and not that anybody else isn't, but his purpose was done when he was 49 years old. He was just done. But his legend lives on, right?
And so I have another beautiful thing that has come out of all of that trauma, and that is I am now a transformational coach.
I love it.
Yes, who have come through past domestic violence. I had a lot of domestic violence in my later life and later relationships because of the sexual child abuse. I had a very low self-esteem.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was worth it. And I just kept picking these guys that just want to target me, and until I learned that I am worth it.
Yes.
And now I do have a high self-esteem, and I just want to give that back to other women. So if you are feeling stuck or feeling like, wow, I want that purpose in my life, I can help you with that.
Absolutely. Yes. And where can they reach you for that? Like, how would they contact you? Is it Facebook or email or what is your preferred contact?
Yeah, exactly. So my Facebook page. I also have my group page, which is Phoenix Risers. So if you just want to reach out to me on my personal page, say I like to be added to your Phoenix Risers, or if you want to put it in private message, just send it in private messenger to me. And you can email me. Although I'm not very good at my emails, my email is ALLI207JUL@gmail.com. And what else do we have? I also have a podcast, Two Lights in the Darkness, that I share with Erna Beckering.
I love your podcast.
Thank
I've been
you.
on it as a guest, you guys. Y'all need to listen to it. It's incredible. I'll make sure to attach all these links also when we share this so people will know how to contact you for your podcast, for your personal information, for your coaching. And you know, you've been through a lot over these last 2 years. I've watched you just transition. Now, you know, you and I have both been through very similar stories of domestic violence. So I'd like to touch on that for a little bit if you're okay with that.
Sure.
So, you know, trauma of any type is hard, you know, whether it be mental, emotional, physical. Um, Something that I learned going through the physical part of it was that wounds will heal, but the
Mm-hmm.
damage that they do mentally stays forever until
Right.
you go through something that reminds you of your worth. And sometimes it takes years, sometimes it takes months, sometimes it could take a few days where you're like, I got to step away from this. So I want to hear your story. Like, you know, were you with multiple people that were abusers, or was it just one relationship, or how did that look like for you in your adult age?
Okay. So the all right, the first husband, he was controlling only one time. And that was more toward my son and not myself, but it's
Okay.
kind of like, but that was only one incident.
Yeah.
And then the second husband that I had, he was very controlling, used my son as a pawn,
Mm.
cheated on me and lied to me,
Oh,
and yeah,
goodness.
and so yeah, and in fact, in that one, he served me divorce papers on Christmas Day, which I should again not like Christmas, but
Yeah.
I do not let that, as long as we don't let things keep us from our happiness, then we have been successful.
Absolutely.
And then my other husband that I had, he was very, very domestic violence, just,
Mm.
and I didn't see the signs. It was just, there was like red flags maybe like later into it, like maybe 6 months later into our relationship.
Right.
But the charming guy, the person that I
Yes.
needed, you know, um, just because I was so vulnerable, and I was like, oh, I really need this person in my life. But, again, another moral, um, valuable lesson is you
Right.
don't need anybody. All right,
Mm-mm.
all you need is yourself.
That's right.
Yeah. It's nice to have someone in your life, but you don't need them. You do not have to be codependent on them.
Mm-mm.
You don't have to be like, oh, I can't live without you kind of person. That
Yes.
desperateness, and I can also help you with that too. And so, yeah, so the red flags, and I was going to college at the time, and I was just trying to hold it all together, and that's going up to the last couple of years. And all my life, I felt like I just am holding it together. Put a band-aid on it, and I'm just going to keep going and keep going. And
Yeah.
I'm doing really good. And I got to that age where my mom had a mental breakdown. And I'm thinking, am I going to have one? No, I'm not going to have one because I refuse to have one,
Right.
right? And so I just kept going, and until it was like something triggered, and then it was like boom, and then all my traumatic, like movie pictures just started coming back all at once, like flooding back.
Yeah.
All the things that have held back. And so I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. My body, it was just like too much overload. It was like you're short circuiting,
Yeah.
And it was like a volcano erupting. That's how I could describe it as. And I didn't know what to do with it. My body shut down, and
Yes.
I was just in a bed, and all I could do was just basically go to the kitchen and get something to eat twice a day. Make sure I showered like on the third day, and that was my life. And I'm like, this is not my life. This is not what I was meant to do.
Right.
And then the suicidal thoughts came in, and I knew that wasn't my voice. That's
right.
a bad voice. And I was like, okay, now I need help. And I called the hospital. They said, yes, you need to come right in. Actually, I couldn't even drive. I couldn't even concentrate to find my keys. I was just like, it was a mess.
Yeah.
So the lady on the phone, she said, you know what? She said, do you mind if I bring a sheriff over to escort you, or at least ride with him? And I said that's fine. I said, but I made sure I did it again, right time, right place.
Yeah.
When my son and my grandson were not around.
Yes.
I didn't see Grammy being hauled off to the hospital.
Right.
And so I went and I stayed there overnight on a cot in the ER because I didn't have any rooms. Here I am again, 6'1 1/4", laying on this short cot. My feet are hanging over, as comfortable as heck, uncomfortable for 24 hours. And then they come in. The guy goes, the doctor says, well, from what I've heard you say, you have PTSD, and I knew it was more than that. It's actually PTSD with like more, I guess I would say aggressive type, where your mental thoughts and all of the psychological thoughts. It's more psychological than it's physical.
Yeah.
It shuts you out, and because you're processing everything, and your body's processing it and trying to figure it out. You're starting the healing process, but you're just like, it's too much, right?
Yeah.
And so the body puts your air brakes on, and the doctor says, well, you have two choices right now that I see. You can go to a group home, where you voluntarily can leave anytime you want and go, or you can go to a locked facility. I'm like, I'm not going to a locked facility.
Right.
Because my mom ended up, and I'm like, not doing that.
Right.
That's not me. And so I opted for the group home for 7 days. And there I just did nothing. I popped in a DVD after DVD, and I just sat there. I didn't want to think about anything, and I just did this thing. And I always had all the answers in the family. Of course, the cheerleader. Everybody else is a cheerleader. And so my brother said, what's the answer? And
yeah.
I said, I don't have any. And he's like, oh. I'm like, yeah, big time oh, because here's the person that has all the answers, and she doesn't have any for herself. And I just knew that there's this tiny little bit of like a light, like that, deep down in, just keeping me going. And I knew it was God. And it's like that song this morning. You ain't dead. I'm not done. It's not over. And it wasn't over by a long shot. It took a while to get past that.
Right.
Jess, I couldn't breathe.
Oh.
What are you talking about? I just kept, I had anxiety attacks. Everything was coming at me. And then one step at a time, I just started walking. I started getting out in the fresh air. That was the other thing. I was so like, I was fearful of going back outside. I overcame that.
Yeah.
And just all leading up to our docuseries, which we're going to talk about as well.
Yes.
So that led up to the docuseries that I had an idea that we would do.
Yay!
After I saw a lady that I was in a business online, and a lady had shared her dramatic story. She had been gang raped, and so I was like, oh my God, there's more people out, more women going through this that need to get their story out. and men too. And so, lo and behold, I just felt it was like an idea from God that I got, and that He just attracted me to all these people that now there's like a whole community of people that want to tell their stories.
Yes.
So we have been for the last 4 years working on this project, and just now getting somewhere with it, right, Jess?
Yes, I was just about to say the time is getting more closer and closer and closer. We have so much that is not landing in our laps, but almost is. So we are working on the funding now for this docu-series. Do you want to tell the name of it yet, or you want to kind of hold off?
Yeah, I want to hold off because I just found out last night I need to copyright it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? And that's huge. Going ahead and copywriting it, getting the paperwork down and writing exactly your vision that you have. And we have someone, who's very interested in taking on this project who does amazing work. Alli and I have a scheduled meeting after the podcast to talk about this because there's just so much good that this docu-series is going to do to help so many people. Podcasts are beautiful platforms, and then the fact that you already have at least 7 to 10 people ready to tell their stories.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
At least. And so that's one really crazy, amazing, exciting thing that Alli's got going on. She's also in the process of doing something else involving a book. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So all these things that you're doing are incredible, and your journey has not been easy, but you have overcome and you have conquered, and you are just taking the world by, like a storm, basically. You're like, oh, you think you can break me? Well, watch this. I'm going to come back full force and better than ever, right?
Yes, exactly.
And you guys really do need to check out everything she's doing, because she is a force to be reckoned with. She's been through it, and now she's helping you through it. So we are just so glad that you're, on here today and talking about all these things that are not ever easy to talk about. No matter, I was going to say, no matter how many times you've discussed it, or I have, or anybody else, it's not easy. And it's not, something that, wish that had happened to you, but it did. It's a part of your story.
Right, exactly. And leads me to another important thing too, is that it's not easy, especially at first, but the more and more you tell it, the more it's like, oh my God, it felt so good to get that out.
Yes. Yeah. It's like weight being lifted off of you every time you tell someone, because it's less inside of your body eating you alive, basically.
Exactly. And, and it's like, I'm not going to say it doesn't trigger you ever.
Yeah.
But there's sometimes I tell my story like last time I told it, and then it really did trigger. But then you find your coping skills, and you come right back, and you're like, that was then. This is now.
Yes. You're safe. Yep.
Right.
Well, and that's one of those things, until you actually take the time to heal yourself from it, you will see these triggers, or you will see similarities in people, of those people, and for some reason you'll continue to draw that, because you haven't healed that part of you that thinks you don't deserve to be in a healthy relationship, or see that you're valued, because you are, and you're so cherished by God, or whoever you believe in, or whatever you believe in. You're loved, and someone has shown you or made you think that you're not, and that is not the case. Like,
right.
We're all here for a reason, and we all deserve love and to be loved. And so, and give love, that's so important, to share love, because even though we've been broken, we are putting our pieces back together. And, I just feel like, watching you grow, and I know you probably feel the same with me.
I do.
We have such a great friendship, and we have been through so many heartbreaks and hard times in the past, and even, while we've been friends, I lost my husband, and you were there for me through everything, and then you went through your really hard time and I was there for you. And that's just what it's about. It's finding your circle, your people, your tribe.
Yes. And even through all that, we ended up recording a song together.
We did. It's called, and we got to write it with Jack before he passed. And so
Yeah.
having that song out there for people to kind of relate to, and, we wrote it about our sons and, them being in the military and having to watch them leave, but we're so proud of them. And then Jack passed, and then we kind of it was like, whoa, he got his wings to fly.
Yes.
And so that's why I put it on the album, because I was like, even though it's about our sons, getting their wings to fly and like going to the military and taking care of things, Jack got his. So I was like, well, it just goes hand in hand,
Yeah, for me, it's pretty multidimensional because we actually to get wings to fly from our domestic abuse. So
yes.
It's like dimensional, for me.
That is so true. I didn't even think about like that for us. We have we're no longer caterpillars. We have our beautiful wings and we're butterflies and we're taking on the world and showing other people that even if you're in the midst of it all right now, there is a way out. There is success stories. There's a glimpse of hope.
Right, exactly. Like I said earlier, we're only held down if we let ourselves be held down. Yeah.
That's such a good statement. That is such a good statement. Yeah. And I don't know if this ever happens to you, because even though I've done the healing and I've done the therapy and I've done the, counseling or whatever, worked for me, if there's ever some kind of turmoil in my life, whether it be like with a friend or, something to do with Mackenzie or something that just doesn't keep my mind or body at peace, I will have a dream about my abuser. Like he will show up and it's never that he's abusing me in my dream. He's just there. And so my mind connects anything that's not peaceful to that person. And I find that very interesting. It's less and less now, but it used to be all the time. Like if I was stressed about anything, I would dream about him. So does that ever happen for you?
I don't ever see like an association with it. Now I can dream about my dad and I know him in a different light, which is a whole another story.
Yeah.
Maybe at the time, but now I see him as a new dad.
Yeah.
The dad that I always wanted that I never had before because he didn't have it, and so now I have dreams where he is actually protecting me.
Wow.
Yeah, because like when I got, well, I didn't know this was going to happen. I was married to my second husband. My second husband, and I knew we were having some trouble, and I was still dealing with my trauma.
Yeah.
And putting a Band-Aid on it, kept going, but I had no idea that in 6 months from the time that I had this dream, that everything that my dad told me would happen happened. And what happened was my dad told me that my husband would leave me and that he would leave me with all the bills. And I'm like, when I woke up, I'm like, no, Dad. I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah.
And there must have been something I ate. And so 6 months later, boom. And he's with all the bills. And I was like, oh my God, Dad, you tried to tell me, you tried to protect me. Okay,
wow.
So that, and then I come to another dream with my dad, and I was at a house, and I don't even know where this house is, and I was out looking over, like through the window at the kitchen sink, and there's this big field of woods in the backyard, and I see my dad coming out of the woods, which is very significant in my dream because my dad was a woodsman.
Yeah.
Among other things, among the truck driver and all that, and military. So he came out with his flannel jacket and orange hunting cap and the whole 9 yards. And he comes around to the door, and the door is not locked, and he walks right in. And and I said, Dad, because I know in my dream that he's gone, right? And I'm like, Dad, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And he says, I've come to take you home.
Oh.
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah, so to me, it meant like when it's time for me to go home, that he'd be the one that's there to lead me, and I'm getting chills again.
I am too. Like you've never told me about that either. Like
No,
I'm learning
no.
so much more. Obviously, so much has happened since our last podcast together for
Yes,
you.
yeah. So,
That's
yeah.
amazing. That's actually
Yes.
a beautiful story. So now you see him in a different light, or maybe he's,
I feel
you know, trying to show you what he wish he had been for you too. You
right.
know,
Mm-hmm.
I
And
love that.
right, and what I refer to as I say my good dad and there's my good dad and my bad dad. My bad dad was the guy that he would come to me at night, and then my good dad was the charming dad, the funny dad. Um, everybody the dad that everybody loved around town. He was the good dad during the day. So I had the good dad and the bad dad,
Yeah.
and but they were one and the same. But in my mind, in order to cope, I had to differentiate them.
Mm-hmm. It's like you had to put them in different compartments in your mind.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
you could survive. It's like a survival tactic, which is,
Yeah.
a lot of people have to do that.
Right.
Oh, well, I am
Yeah.
so glad that you're safe now and you can help so many people out of whatever circumstances they're going through. And there's always a way out. I want people to hear, no matter what you're going through, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Allie and I ourselves have been through, physical, emotional, sexual, all of it. We've been through all of the abuse that you could possibly think of. And here we are having a podcast episode talking about how we're here today.
Yeah.
And Allie's, come on and been very brave to share all of this with us. Because, yours started very young.
Yes.
You were 5. I met the guy when I was 13 and it started at 15. Well, it probably started before then, the emotional and not the physical. The physical didn't start until 15, but I bet you if I was to sit here and think about it, it was probably 13, 14 when the emotional started. And I just didn't realize it because I'd
Right.
never understood why he would be that way because, I'd never had abuse before him. And
Right.
so, you question like why would you want someone like that? But they're charmers. They charm the pants off of you. Like
Exactly.
that, it's like you almost get under a spell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they play on your vulnerability.
They do. They
Right, and
definitely do.
the other thing is that they see so much potential in you, they feel threatened by it, so they have to keep you down.
That's right. They want to bring you down to their level. And then the next day they're talking about how amazing you are. And you're like, okay, which one is it? Like, am I this terrible person or am I this person that you want to love? And so it's like a constant walking on eggshells because you don't know. How is their mood going to be? How are they going to treat me today? Am I ugly today? Am I pretty today? Am I, do I matter? And clearly that's not healthy. Like,
Right.
as
And all these terms I didn't know until I got into healing the toxic relationship narcissist.
Yep.
And like you just hit on a big thing, walking on eggshells. That's all I can describe how it was when I was growing up. We walked on eggshells all the time. We didn't know, like, you don't even say boo to my dad, like, and you didn't know what you were going to get, because not only was he an abuser, but he was also a closet alcoholic. We didn't ever see him drink, but we could see him drunk, and he went into rages, and he would go from A to Z, and he had this. He was very strict because he was in the military, and he was very strict with us. And he told us that we were to say yes, sir, not okay. It was not acceptable. Yes, sir, or nothing. And so one day I forgot, and I said okay, and he never hit me or anything like that, which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah.
But he gave me, this look like, ever say that again,
Yeah.
And I did leave one thing out of my story when he did sexually abuse me the first time. He told me at that time that if I ever told anyone, he would kill me. And then at 5 years old, you believe it,
Of course you would. That's your father.
Right. And so it's like that. Just for me, it was like, okay, now this terrible thing's happened. I don't know what it is, but I know it's wrong. And now I can't talk about it. So that started stuffing it down.
Yeah.
That's, that road of like 15 years of just stuffing it and stuffing it and stuffing it. And I did try to tell one of his coworkers, but that didn't pan out because I like kind of giving him a look like I wanted to say something.
Yeah.
And said to my dad, he's like, I think she wants to tell me something. And my dad shot that look at me, and he's like, no, she doesn't. No, she doesn't.
Oh.
And so, and that was the last time I ever tried. I thought that my grandfather would be the one to save me, but my grandfather ended up dying when I was 10, and then I thought, oh my God, my world's over.
Yeah.
Because now I can't tell anybody.
Because that was like, he was almost a father figure to you, right? Like you were really close to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. So how old were you when you tried to tell the coworker? Were you 5 or older?
Yeah, I was 5. It was the next morning.
Oh, wow. So you really knew something was wrong and you wanted to talk.
Right. Yeah, I really wanted to tell him.
Oh.
And yeah.
And then your dad shot that down real quick because he knew exactly where you were going with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just so sorry that it happened, not only you, but your other siblings.
No, I know. And the really sad thing that hurts me today still is that my oldest sister hasn't healed from it, forgiven, and she is in a wheelchair to this day because of it.
Oh, goodness. So that, yeah. And then one of your siblings passed away. Is that right?
Yeah, my other sister, she passed, but she did forgive him, and she had closure before
Good.
she died. Yes, and the only thing is, I'm sorry that she never got to hear that I came out about that, that his the bad dad is being exploded, and
Yeah.
that it's not a secret anymore. It's okay.
Oh, I'm sure she's definitely understanding and watching, and I bet she has so much happiness for you and so proud of you that you're doing what you're doing because when you have trauma, it can either you have a choice to repeat it, like or you can just be the or I don't really call it black sheep, but you can be the change in the family that you wish you had as a little girl.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and like I said, I know that in heaven they have a different relationship, and that they're like very happy to be home. And I know that when I told my story to a lady at church, a director of women's ministry, which I'm going to be speaking there this summer.
Ooh, that's exciting.
And she said, after I told her story, she's like, wow. She's like, Alli, she's like, she's like, anyone else that's gone through what you went through would not have turned to God.
No.
But you did. And I'm like, yep, you did. And that's so important is that I know there's a lot of women and men out there that have been sexually abused, but they're still holding on to that. And they're still forgiving their abuser. And I'm like, you are not doing yourself any favors. And you are not hurting them by doing it. You're hurting yourself.
Absolutely. You're keeping those chains bound to you. And I'm so glad you mentioned men as well, because not only, it happens to everybody. And I feel like society is seeing women speak up a lot more, but we want this platform to be available to men also. Anybody that's had any form of abuse, domestic, any of it, like, you're safe here. This is a safe haven. It's what I like to call it, And between myself and Alli, you can reach out to either of us if you just need to talk, or if you're wanting to tell your story in the docuseries, because I know we plan to have a few different, what's the word I'm looking for? Episodes. We already have 7, or I don't even know how many that in each series. I guess I'm trying to say we'll have multiple series is the goal. So it's not just going to be like a one-time thing of a few stories. Like, we plan to spread this thing out and open this for everybody, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and so we have I'm hoping for at least 6 episodes right now.
Okay.
And I want to tell you about this book that I found at the library. Another reason why I love God, because when you're looking for something and you not even know you're looking for it, He just puts it right there in your face.
Yes. Always.
So I was looking for, in the back of my mind, books to help me research on my coaching to use. And this book was right front and center on top of the shelf. And it's called No Visible Bruises. What we don't know about domestic violence can kill us.
Oh, wow.
By Rachel Louise Snyder. And it has all kinds of stories and updates of what is being done about helping domestic violence survivors, and not only survivors, but men that are abusing women, or vice versa, women that are abusing men, because if we don't deal with the abusers, we're never going to get anywhere. So, and they found that anger management classes does not help. What helps is if they go back, like us as, I don't like to say the victim very much, but as a trauma victim, tell our stories like I just did, have the abuser tell their story, and they had to come clean as to what they did to their significant other.
Ooh, wow.
Yes, and just going back to that, and like, okay, how could you have handled that differently?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that stem from? And I'm loving that, because it's like, now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting to the source of, like, okay, so why were you even like there at the first place? Because these men have been raised to fight back.
Yeah.
To defend themselves. To not cry. Okay, so they're holding all their feelings inside.
Yep.
So if they get triggered, they're just like, they're doing what they've learned.
Absolutely.
Especially, if you've been living on the streets, we have to be tough,
Oh, yeah. And society has said that men can't have feelings, and so they can't cry. So since a man can't cry, which is so ridiculous, they bottle up all this anger, and then they have to find an outlet, and some do it unhealthy, some do it healthy. But that's just, I just think that's the craziest thing. I really do.
It is. My grandfather, he'd cry at church, and I loved it. Aww. He was just like, just very expressionist. And I know now he was an empath. I didn't know what empath was back then.
Yeah.
But I'm an empath, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yes, you definitely are.
Yeah, thank you. And so, yeah, and that helps a lot with my coaching too, because I can really pick up on facial expressions. I can pick up on where this person is mentally, which is me, and I can help that person better.
Yeah, and you're an incredible healer, not just for yourself, but others. Like, I did your course with you, and I felt amazing after. And, I feel like everybody needs someone to talk to, whether it's a coach, a therapist, somebody outside of basically your whole story. Unless you feel comfortable with a friend, like with you, I felt comfortable. And you and I talk about everything, but there are some people who need people that are listening right now. They don't know you, but I can tell you, not just as her friend, but as someone that has been through her course, it's incredible. Like, you will feel bricks being pulled off of you, and you'll feel the oxygen being more clear in your, in your lungs, and you'll feel like having a purpose again, and you feel you do release a lot, like, and it was only a short time that I did it, and I felt great in those few weeks. Wonderful. So you guys definitely reach out to Alli and keep a lookout for our docuseries that we really, really hope this year is the year for it. And as we wrap up today, Alli, is there anything else that you would like to tell everyone out there who's either in the middle of some kind of abuse or trying to pick up pieces, or even, get started? Is there anything you want to say to them?
Yeah, so the way that I healed is I found, and God, again, I was at a restaurant, and there was this lady that I knew, and she invited some friends, and I just happened to sit beside this one friend of hers that I had never met. And the lady goes to me, "Hi, I'm a trauma coach."
Wow. Just said it to you?
Yes, I said, "Oh my God." And so I said, I really am in need of a trauma coach right now. And she was intensive. I will not kid you. She was intensive, and she got right down to the core, and I'm telling you, it hurt.
Yeah.
I came her swinging, and but she was ready for it, and she got me past the hard part, and then again, the universe or God, however you want to say it,
Yeah.
sent me a phenomenal NLP coach, and I still work with him today, and I'm getting certified on my NLP coaching really soon, which I'm really excited about.
Yay!
And so I would first of all, I would very much recommend finding an intensive trauma coach to get all the hurt and test all that out, and then go for your NLP coaching. And if you want to reach out to me again, I can totally give you that phenomenal coach his name, and also you can work with me once I get certified. And then after that, it was a no-brainer for me. I'm like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to help other women get back 30 years of their life like I did, because I had blocked it. And he helped me not only regain those years and find out things that I was holding on to that I didn't even realize I was holding on to.
Right.
And revise those images so that now I have no emotional attachment to them. I revise them so they're all positive affirmations.
Absolutely.
Streams, but yeah, it's amazing. Like now, because the first time I told my story, I was like, crying and shaking, and now none of that. Yep. None of that. So.
And, for everyone listening, it does take time. So be very patient with yourself, because you're going to go on an emotional roller coaster like you've never been on.
Right.
And it's going to pull up things that you may not have even remembered, and you had, put it away in like a hiding box in your mind because you didn't want to remember it. I will say that definitely happened along my journey, where I was like, did that actually happen, or was it a dream?
Right, exactly, yeah.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and that's where you can tell it's those emotions. Those emotions will come right up. You're, that really happened, because you can feel it.
Yes.
And then, but it is a long, tough road. But I'll tell you what, I got further in my NLP coaching than I ever did in counseling or therapy, any other like medical field.
Yeah.
That never worked. NLP is like the best, and is so worth it.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that is what is working for you, and you have found that peace that you so deserve.
Well, thank you so much.
That means, I feel like for me and my journey, I've had to do multiple different outlets, just because I feel like I there's a lot in there, I have, had a coach. I'm still in therapy. I do music. I that's my outlet. Those are my three, like, the ways that I release everything. And I'm so glad, that you and I have been side by side through healing together. I mean, our stories are completely different, but our friendship is amazing, and it's gotten even closer, I feel like, since Jack passed.
Oh, yeah.
And we got to plan a trip soon. I miss you.
Yeah, we're working on it.
We are. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Sean's back up here now. So we want to thank you so much for coming on and telling these not easy stories, but giving some people, words of advice, and showing everyone that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to get out of that tunnel. I mean, it may take some time, but there is hope.
Yes, and that reminds me of your song, The Light. I love that. And so check her out on all platforms.
And thank you. That is the only Christian song that I have done, and I feel like that and Beautifully Broken are the two biggest.
My favorite.
Yep. Thank you for that. She's talking about my song called The Light. It's Jess Haynes on all platforms, downloading. I can't even words anymore. On all platforms you can download. That might give you a little bit of a ray of sunshine, and let you know that, whether you believe in God or the universe or a higher power, something will help you get out. You're not stuck. But thank you so much again. And we will make sure to post everything, links on how they can contact you directly. And be on the lookout for a docuseries from Miss Alli and me. I'm her, it's her idea, and I'm just kind of her side person. I don't know what my label would be, but I'm here to help you build your dream. So, but we think we've got it all lined up. So be on the lookout for that. But thank you again. And if you guys have any questions for us or, need someone to talk to, me or Alli is 100% available for you.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Thank you for the invite, Jess.
All right. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Go ahead, Sean.
Trying to work this out with the dog in my hands. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of
A Little Bit of This
and a Little Bit of That.
Have a great evening. Bye-bye.